They have found a mysterious chamber hidden deep inside Egypt's Great Pyramid of Giza.
A look inside, a precise analysis, a real characterization of the North Face corridor.
For centuries, the Great Pyramid of Giza has stood as an unshakable enigma, towering over the sands of time. But what if this ancient wonder still holds a long-lost secret, hidden just beneath the surface, a passage so well concealed? Even the greatest explorers and archaeologists never knew it was there. Until now. Recent discoveries have uncovered a baffling mystery within the pyramid's depths, something unexpected, possibly groundbreaking. A space sealed away for thousands of years, untouched, unseen, until modern technology finally peered inside. Could this be the missing link to one of history's greatest unanswered questions? Or does it point to something even more astonishing? A revelation that challenges what we thought we knew about Khufu's monument, the secret passage. For centuries, explorers and researchers have speculated about hidden chambers within the Great Pyramid, but a newly discovered passage may finally change everything. In the North Face corridor, an unexpected hole in the floor has been found, measuring approximately 45–55 centimeters, with a smaller block placed within it. This is the strongest candidate yet for a true secret passage inside the pyramid, one that was cut into the floor after the corridor was built. The discovery, made public in October 2024, adds to the growing list of unexplained voids and hidden spaces within Khufu's monument. The existence of this sealed access point suggests that the builders may have needed to enter a previously unknown space, only to seal it off once their work was complete. If confirmed, this would mean that there are still areas of the pyramid that remain unexplored, potentially holding new clues about its construction or even its original purpose. Previous studies using muography scanning have revealed voids above the Grand Gallery and behind the chevrons at the entrance, but none have offered a clear physical entrance until now. One of the most intriguing aspects of this discovery is that it was not detected for centuries, despite being in a relatively accessible part of the pyramid. Early explorers, including Flinders Petrie in the 19th century, noted that the chevrons above the entrance appeared to have a hollow space behind them, but without the advanced technology available today, they could not confirm its significance. Now, thanks to endoscopic cameras and new imaging techniques, we finally have visual proof of a deliberately sealed floor opening inside the corridor. So, what is behind it? That the floor was changed after the corridor was built implies that it was used to inspect or access before being closed forever. Again, just like so many of the other pyramid finds. For example, the relieving chambers over the king's chamber, which were discovered with ancient graffiti and marks left by the builders. If researchers are permitted to venture into the corridor and inspect the floor more closely, they could find additional signs of alterations or even an entrance to the deeper interior of the pyramid. However, not everyone is convinced this discovery is a true breakthrough. Some Egyptologists argue that the North Face corridor and its floor features are merely structural elements designed to relieve weight from the entrance passage below. Yet, this does not explain why a sealed access hole was cut into the floor, nor why it appears to have been deliberately hidden. It's now a choice for the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, whether they will let people explore more, or it remains just another mystery of the Great Pyramid unsolved. Hidden space or something else? Some believe it leads to something far more significant, a long-lost secret buried deep within the pyramid. And if they're right, it could change history forever. Khufu's hidden burial? For over 4,500 years, the final resting place of Pharaoh Khufu, the ruler for whom the Great Pyramid was built, has remained an enigma. While conventional wisdom states that the king's chamber is his intended burial site, no mummy, treasure, or burial artifacts have ever been found inside. Now, with the revelation of a sealed access hole inside the North Face corridor, some researchers believe that we may finally have a lead on the true burial chamber of Khufu, one that has remained hidden beneath the pyramid for millennia. One of the strongest voices advocating this theory is Zahi Hawass, the former Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Antiquities. In March 2023, at a press conference unveiling the North Face corridor, Hawass confidently stated, "The real burial chamber of Khufu should be underneath that tunnel." However, nearly 2 years have passed since that statement, and no official excavations have been conducted to confirm or disprove his claim. If this hidden floor opening does lead downward, It could mean that an underground tomb, separate from the king's chamber, may still be waiting to be discovered. The idea of an underground burial chamber aligns with earlier pyramid building traditions. In the Step Pyramid of Giza, for example, the burial chamber was located deep beneath the pyramid, accessed through a complex series of tunnels. Even the Bent Pyramid of Sneferu contains an upper and lower chamber, suggesting that multiple burial spaces within a pyramid were not uncommon. If Khufu followed this tradition, it is possible that the visible chambers inside the Great Pyramid were decoys, while his true tomb was placed deep within the bedrock below. According to skeptics, the Great Pyramid was not designed to hide secrets, but to reveal its purpose openly. These include the granite plugs blocking the ascending passage and the Grand Gallery leading to the King's Chamber. However, the existence of unexplored voids above the Grand Gallery, like the Scan Pyramid's Big Void, and the newly discovered floor hole put forward this fact. If there is an underground chamber, it means that there is more mystery to the pyramid than we initially thought. This theory has a major hurdle, the official approval for excavation, as it has not been met with new findings, and the Egyptian authorities would refuse to allow further exploration, possibly out of concern that the technique may damage the structure or the protocols for conservation. On the other hand, researchers can carry out ground-penetrating radar, GPR in this case, to decide on a hidden chamber beneath the pyramid without destroying its integrity. However, will Egypt take the next step, the hole that was never meant to be found? For over 700 years, an inconspicuous block near the chevrons of the Great Pyramid remained unnoticed by explorers and researchers. However, in 2024, new imaging technology revealed that this block was actually hiding a secret, a small, deliberately cut hole in the floor of the North Face corridor. This opening is the most compelling evidence yet of a concealed passageway inside the pyramid, and its existence raises an important question. Why was it sealed, and what were the builders trying to hide? One of the most striking aspects of this discovery is that early explorers had already seen it, but dismissed it as insignificant. In the 19th century, the renowned British Egyptologist Flinders Petrie noted that there was a small gap behind the chevrons at the pyramid's entrance. However, due to the technology available at the time, he could not see past the blockage. It was not until the Scan Pyramids team inserted an endoscopic camera that the true nature of the corridor was revealed, along with its hidden floor opening. The hole is 45 by 55 centimeters, so it was barely large enough to squeeze through, suggesting that perhaps it was for inspections or to gain access to another space. But if this passage was intended for routine maintenance, why did they go to such pains to seal it off? The most plausible answer is that whatever lay beyond it was never meant to be found. Unlike the large open design of the main chambers of the pyramid, this corridor and its hidden access point appear to serve a different, more secretive function. A vital clue is in the way the hole was plugged. The stone that blocked the opening was pushed in from inside the corridor, not from the outside. This means that the last people to use this passage were inside when they sealed it. Could this mean that something of great importance was hidden beyond this point? That would mean the implications were monumental. Perhaps the pyramid's greatest secret had been lying just beneath our feet all along. This secret door remains an enigma, but one thing is sure: it was not designed to be found. Be it a lost room, a secret passage, or another space, this little hole could open the doors to one of the greatest archaeological finds of modern times. What lies beyond the North Face Corridor? The North Face Corridor is a recently discovered passage within the Great Pyramid, but the biggest mystery remains: what lies beyond it? Unlike other known spaces within the pyramid, this corridor appears to have a sealed floor opening, suggesting it may connect to a hidden space that has remained undiscovered for millennia. If this passage was used for access, where does it lead? The lack of definitive scans revealing an open void beyond it only fuels the speculation that a sealed chamber or another passage may exist. Many archaeologists point to the relieving chambers above the King's Chamber as a precedent for hidden spaces within the pyramid. These chambers, uncovered in the 19th century by Howard Weiss, were never meant to be entered. Yet they revealed crucial insights into pyramid construction, including ancient quarry marks and cartouches left by Khufu's workers. If the North Face corridor leads to a similar concealed space, It could provide invaluable information about how and why the pyramid was built. However, the design of the corridor challenges traditional explanations. In most Old Kingdom pyramids, weight-relieving spaces were placed directly above key structural elements, such as burial chambers or passageways. Yet, the north face corridor does not follow this logic. It is located near the pyramid's entrance, where no additional structural reinforcement was necessary. This raises the possibility that its purpose was not simply architectural, but instead served a hidden function that has yet to be understood. Another important question is why the hole in the floor was cut in the corridor after the construction had been completed. If the passage was designed to be accessed, it would have had an open entrance from the beginning. That the hole was sealed later means that it must have been used for something particular, perhaps inspection, maintenance, or even ritual purposes. Other experts believe that it could lead one deep into a long sealed passageway that was kept hidden from looters and future generations alike. Myography scans have yet to find any big hole in the passage, but it doesn't rule out the fact that there may be a tunnel. Open chambers might not show any signs, but tightly packed stone or masonry could easily hide a tunnel. Ground-penetrating radar or an endoscopic camera might be able to find more about what lies beyond. If an entrance to a previously unknown space is found, then it could be one of the most important discoveries in the history of Egyptology. Whether it leads to a hidden chamber, another passage, or an unknown architectural feature, the answers waiting behind the north face corridor could reshape our understanding of the Great Pyramid and its hidden mysteries. Most overlooked mystery. While the Great Pyramid has been the subject of countless studies, one of its biggest mysteries has gone largely unnoticed: the purpose of the north face corridor and its unusual design. Unlike the grand chambers and passageways inside the pyramid, this corridor was hidden away behind the entrance's chevrons and remained undetected for centuries. The fact that it was never meant to be visible raises a compelling question. Why was this space created, and why was it hidden? Most pyramid chambers serve a clear purpose, whether for burial, structural reinforcement, or religious function. However, the north face corridor does not align with any known architectural logic. If it were merely a weight-relieving chamber, why does it not follow the standard staggered ceiling design seen in the king's chamber and relieving chambers above it? Instead, its ceiling stones are placed differently, with some aligned, some nearly aligned, and others staggered. This irregularity suggests a different construction approach, possibly for experimental or functional reasons. Adding to the mystery is the sealed access hole in the floor, which suggests that this space was not permanently sealed at the time of construction. The opening was cut into the floor after the corridor was built, indicating that workers needed to re-enter the space at some point. If it was simply a structural feature, why would there be a need to access it again? This detail implies that the corridor was used for something beyond simple reinforcement, perhaps serving as an inspection tunnel, or even a hidden entrance to another chamber. The location of the corridor is unique. It sits directly behind the entrance chevrons, an area that visitors to the pyramid would see first. Some researchers suggest that it was part of an early construction phase that was sealed off when the final entrance was completed. If that is the case, it could hold clues to the evolution of the pyramid's design, including modifications that were made after construction had already begun. While Egyptologists have proposed several theories, none of them adequately explain all anomalies of the north face corridor. Was it a test chamber for construction techniques? A sealed-off access route to another space? Or was it simply forgotten in the course of the pyramid's construction? Until further exploration is permitted, the true purpose of this corridor remains one of the Great Pyramid's most overlooked mysteries. With discoveries continually surfacing, the importance of taking another look at previously dismissed areas of the pyramid has never been clearer. If this north face corridor is just one of many forgotten spaces within the Great Pyramid, we might still be far from revealing all there is to know about this ancient wonder. Pathway hidden in plain sight. One of the most surprising aspects of the north face corridor is that it may have been an inspection pathway rather than a structural element. While most pyramids feature architectural features designed for weight relief or stability, the design of this corridor suggests a different purpose. Its placement near the entrance, along with the sealed floor hole, indicates that it was not simply a hidden void, but a deliberately designed access route. one that was later closed off and forgotten. Egyptian pyramid builders were known for their remarkable engineering skills, but they were also experimental in their approach. Some researchers believe that the North Face corridor was used to test a new construction method, particularly the chevron ceiling design. Then the builders would have needed a way to inspect the vault above the entrance to ensure its effectiveness. The presence of circular cuttings in the ceiling, which indicate wooden support logs were used, further supports this theory. Another clue lies in the size and shape of the floor hole. At 45 by 55 centimeters, it is just large enough for a single worker to pass through, rather than being a passageway for materials. This suggests that someone needed to physically enter the space, possibly to check for cracks or weak points in the masonry. After the necessary inspections were completed, the opening was sealed, preventing further access. If the corridor's only function had been to relieve weight, there would be no reason for such a small, precisely cut hole to exist. The location of the corridor in the pyramid's design is also unique. If it were a relieving space, it would have been placed directly above a structurally significant area. Instead, it is located above the original entrance, which does not bear a heavy load. This suggests that its primary function was something else entirely, possibly related to early-stage construction techniques rather than weight distribution. This concept fits well into the larger scheme of hidden constructional elements in the Great Pyramid. Other finds, such as air shafts emanating from the Queen's Chamber, indicate that builders used temporary or secondary spaces that were eventually sealed. If this corridor is a temporary inspection tunnel, it means that there are more hidden spaces in the Great Pyramid than thought, and potentially more yet to be found. As new imaging techniques improve, one may be able to map out the internal structure of the pyramid with even greater detail and see how and why some passageways were sealed off. To see the North Face corridor as an inspection pathway would offer a fantastic insight into how ancient Egyptian builders ensured the structural integrity of one of the greatest monuments in human history. What if this passage wasn't just for inspection? Some evidence suggests it may have once led beyond the pyramid itself. Let's find out. Could this passageway lead outside? The discovery of the North Face corridor has reignited debate about whether the Great Pyramid once had additional hidden entrances or exit points. The small 45 by 55 centimeter hole in the corridor's floor, which appears to have been intentionally cut and later sealed, raises the possibility that it once connected to an external passage. If true, this could suggest that the pyramid's original design included multiple access points, some of which were later sealed for reasons still unknown. One of the biggest clues supporting this idea is that many Old Kingdom pyramids had secondary entrances. For example, the Bent Pyramid of Sneferu has a high entrance on its northern face, along with an additional entrance on the western side. If Khufu's pyramid followed a similar design, it is possible that the North Face corridor served as a temporary or alternate entrance that was closed off after construction. The positioning of the corridor, tucked behind the entrance chevrons, suggests it may have once connected to a now hidden external passageway. However, unlike other known pyramid entrances, the North Face corridor does not lead directly to a burial chamber or internal corridor. Instead, its placement above the main entrance suggests it may have been used during the pyramid's construction and then sealed off when it was no longer needed. This would explain why the hole in the floor was added later, indicating that access was once required but later deliberately blocked. Could the builders have been using this passage as a temporary route for workers or materials? Another fascinating hypothesis is that the pyramid originally had a second, now concealed entrance, one sealed and forgotten with time. Some researchers suggest that the Great Pyramid's design changed over time, with the original entrance being modified or relocated. If an external passage was once connected to the North Face corridor, it may have been part of an early phase of construction, later replaced by the final grand entrance. This theory is congruent with the reason that stones at the corridor ceiling were disposed otherwise than any of the remaining chambers in a pyramid, signifying a new plan. Most importantly, no scans or excavations have yet confirmed an external exit from the corridor. The Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities has not authorized any further physical exploration, and therefore researchers must rely on myography scans and ground-penetrating radar to look for signs of a lost passage. If technology can detect hidden gaps or seams in the pyramid's masonry, then it could reveal whether the north face corridor was once part of a larger, now inaccessible tunnel system. Further investigation will confirm one thing. If this corridor ran outside the pyramid, it would change fundamentally our understanding of how the Great Pyramid was built or used. It may even suggest multiple phases of construction, that secret pathways were sealed deliberately, or maybe even that hidden routes to use by ancient priests or workers existed. Until then, it is one of the most tantalizing mysteries of the Great Pyramid. The forgotten space that shouldn't exist. The North Face corridor is one of the most perplexing spaces inside the Great Pyramid, mainly because it does not fit into any known architectural pattern. Unlike the King's Chamber, the Queen's Chamber, or the Grand Gallery, this corridor was hidden behind the entrance's chevrons and was not meant to be visible or accessible. The fact that it exists at all is unusual, leading many to ask, why was this space created, and why was it forgotten? A key mystery is that the corridor does not follow traditional weight-relieving design principles. In most pyramids, weight-relieving structures are positioned directly above major chambers or passageways to prevent the heavy limestone blocks from collapsing. However, the North Face corridor is located above the entrance, an area that does not require extra reinforcement. This means its purpose was likely something other than structural support. But what? The discovery of the sealed hole in the floor further deepens the mystery. If this corridor was simply a structural feature, why would a hole be cut after construction was completed, and why would it be sealed off later? This strongly suggests that the space had a specific function that required later access, possibly for inspection, ritual use, or even an alternate route leading elsewhere in the pyramid. Could it be that the corridor was a temporary space that was forgotten after construction ended? Some researchers consider the corridor and its secret passages as a sign of an abandoned or altered architectural design. The Great Pyramid took 2 decades to build, and its design may have changed with time. The corridor could have been part of an earlier design that was later abandoned or sealed off when the builders decided on a different internal structure. This might be the reason why it does not fit the standard design of pyramid chambers. Adding to the mystery, the unusual design of the corridor's ceiling suggests that the space may have been an experimental chamber. Unlike the staggered chevron ceilings of other weight-relieving spaces, the North Face corridor's ceiling stones are partially aligned, partially staggered, making it inconsistent with other known pyramid construction techniques. If it was an experimental vault, it could mean that the builders were testing new methods of construction before finalizing the Grand Gallery and the King's Chamber. In short, the North Face corridor is a forgotten space that, by today's understanding of pyramid design, should not be. Whether it was an entrance discard, an experimental chamber, or an access route, a hidden entrance disturbs how one believed the Great Pyramid was planned and constructed. Until the exploration beyond this corridor is allowed, its purpose will be one of history's greatest enigmas, a passage for the living, not the dead. The Great Pyramid is widely believed to be Khufu's tomb, yet some features challenge this idea, particularly the North Face corridor, a hidden passage with an unclear purpose. The discovery of a sealed floor hole suggests this space may have been used for the living, not the dead. Could it have been accessed by workers, priests, or even Khufu himself before being sealed? Unlike typical funerary passages, the North Face corridor does not lead to a burial chamber, hinting at a temporary function. Some experts believe it was an inspection or access route used during construction, reinforced by cutting marks on the ceiling and floor. Its location near the entrance further supports this theory. Had it been for burial purposes, it would likely be deeper inside the pyramid. Its later sealing from the inside suggests it was deliberately closed off after serving as a workspace, rather than a tomb-related structure. A major clue is the resemblance of the design of the corridor to temporary features of construction of other pyramids. In other earlier pyramid building traditions, secret shafts and corridors were utilized for the movement of materials and for the examination and adjustment by the builders before sealing forever. If the corridor was designed for such a purpose, then it could mean that the internal layout of the Great Pyramid was more dynamic than previously supposed. Yet another reason is that the corridor was used in rituals or ceremonies, either during the reign of a pharaoh or shortly after. In some views, pyramids could be dual monuments, constructed when the king was alive and being his tomb at the time of death. Perhaps when this changing phase comes into action in the process of burial, the corridor is sealed. If the north face corridor was used by the living, then this would be a completely new interpretation of how the Great Pyramid was used before and after Khufu's death. The pyramid was not just a static burial structure, but perhaps had a more interactive and dynamic role in ancient Egyptian society. This new perspective could open up the door to reinterpreting other hidden spaces within Egypt's greatest monument. If this passage was meant for the living, what else remains undiscovered? Some believe we're closer than ever to revealing the Great Pyramid's biggest secret. Biggest secret, still waiting to be found. Despite centuries of exploration, the Great Pyramid of Giza continues to guard its secrets. The discovery of the North Face corridor and its sealed floor hole raises new questions. What else remains hidden? Scans have revealed unknown voids, but their purpose and contents remain a mystery. Could this newly found passage lead to Egyptology's greatest discovery? One of the biggest puzzles is the Scan Pyramid's Big Void, a 30-meter-long space above the Grand Gallery detected in 2017. With no known entrance, its function is unclear, an undiscovered burial chamber or just a structural feature. The sealed hole in the North Face corridor might be the first physical entry point, offering a chance to uncover deeper secrets. Some researchers believe the pyramid was built in phases, with sections intentionally sealed. If the corridor was deliberately blocked, what were the Egyptians protecting, and why? Pressure is mounting for authorities to allow deeper exploration before history's greatest mystery remains locked away forever. While muography scans have helped locate empty spaces, they cannot determine their contents. Some have speculated that the pyramid may still hold original funerary artifacts or even documents that could provide direct insights into its construction. If a hidden chamber exists beyond the North Face corridor, it could contain the greatest archaeological find in history, shedding light on Khufu's reign, pyramid construction techniques, or even the true purpose of these monuments. Muography scanning has revealed plenty of empty chambers, yet these techniques are not able to provide information as to the details of what may be found within them. Some maintain that the pyramid may very well still harbor funerary relics, or even possibly documents that might give direct evidence regarding its erection. Should any hidden chamber exist beyond the North Face corridor, the archaeological discoveries made throughout could be the greatest ever in the history of man, ushering in details of the reign of Khufu, the means of construction of his pyramid, and even the true nature of the monuments in question. Nevertheless, Egyptian authorities are cautious and have limited physical exploration inside the Great Pyramid for conservation reasons. Many experts recommend that any serious physical excavation should use non-invasive techniques, including ground-penetrating radar and high-resolution scanning. But, with a sealed hole into the North Face corridor as a suspect opening, the curiosity to look further may very soon become irresistible. All eyes are on Egypt as the world awaits its next move. Will researchers be allowed to take a shot at asking questions of means of examining the sealed floor hole? Could there be some undiscovered network of passages screaming to be explored? If the Great Pyramid hides more than what has been uncovered thus far, whatever the ultimate discovery, whether a hidden tomb, a lost archive, or just an unknown structure feature, would be a moment that rewrites history. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this mystery, like, comment, and subscribe for more ancient discoveries. What do you think lies beyond this passage? Let me know below. And don't stop here. Watch the next video on the screen now for more mind-blowing pyramid secrets.